Every day, millions of people immerse themselves in the digital world, unaware of an invisible danger that can leave deep emotional scars. Virtual trauma is a 21st century reality that many prefer to ignore. According to research, over 70% of internet users have encountered aggression online at least once, and 1 in 3 teenagers has experienced systematic bullying on social media. Digital aggression subtly infiltrates our lives through the screens of smartphones, laptops, tablets, leaving behind anxiety, depression, sleep disturbances, and even suicidal thoughts. The paradox of virtual trauma is that it is invisible to others but painfully palpable to the victim. Psychologists note that the emotional damage from online violence can be comparable to physical harm. The brain does not always distinguish between real and virtual threats, triggering the same stress mechanisms. This makes digital trauma particularly insidious. We don't see bruises, but the emotional pain can haunt for years. The digital space, like a dark forest, conceals many dangers. Each leaves its own distinct mark on the victim's psyche. Cyberbullying, systematic online harassment, acts like a slow poison, undermining self-esteem and a sense of security. Aggressors, often acting in groups, create the effect of a public execution, where humiliation occurs before the eyes of dozens, hundreds, and sometimes even thousands of witnesses. Trolling, provocative comments and actions, aims to elicit an emotional response. Its perfidy lies in the fact that the victim often doesn't realize they've become an object of manipulation, but only experiences anger, powerlessness, and shame for their reactions. Hating. Waves of unjustified hatred suddenly descends upon a person, creating a feeling as if the whole world has turned against you. Doxing, publishing personal information without consent, deprives one of a sense of privacy and control over their own life. The victim feels exposed before a crowd of strangers, which causes deep anxiety and paranoia. Online sexual harassment, from unwanted messages to blackmail with intimate photos, inflicts particularly deep trauma, affecting the most intimate aspects of one's personality. All these forms of violence share one thing: they destroy fundamental trust in the world and in people, making the victim feel defenseless even in their own home. Financial fraud on the internet is not just a loss of money. It's a deep psychological trauma that leaves a lasting mark on a person's soul. Every year, millions of people fall victim to virtual swindlers, losing not only their savings, but also their self-confidence. Phishing emails, fake investment platforms, romance scams, all these schemes are built on manipulating basic human emotions: trust, greed, fear, loneliness. When a person realizes they've been deceived, the first reaction is shock and denial. "This can't be happening. I couldn't have made such a mistake," thinks the victim. Then comes a wave of shame, particularly agonizing due to the widespread myth that only naive and foolish people fall for scammers. Studies show the opposite. Victims come from all levels of education and intelligence. Financial trauma often causes a secondary victimization effect, when loved ones, instead of offering support, accuse the victim. "How could you not notice the obvious deception?" This intensifies feelings of shame and isolation. Losing money online undermines basic trust in the world. The victim begins to see threats everywhere, becoming suspicious even of legitimate services. A fear of using digital financial instruments arises, which significantly limits a person in the modern world. Such traumas are particularly hard on older people, for whom the loss of savings can mean the collapse of all plans for the rest of their lives. Paradoxically, sometimes victims continue to believe scammers even after the deception is revealed. This is a manifestation of cognitive dissonance, when the mind refuses to accept a painful reality. Digital trauma, unlike physical trauma, leaves no bruises or wounds, yet its traces are clearly visible in our behavior, emotions, and bodily reactions. How can one recognize the invisible scars of virtual violence? The first signals are often sleep disturbances, insomnia or nightmares in which images from online bullying pursue one. The body reacts to digital threats physically, an accelerated heartbeat at the sound of notifications, muscle tension upon entering social networks, headaches after prolonged time online. The emotional sphere suffers particularly noticeably. Sharp mood swings, outbursts of anger alternating with apathy, causeless anxiety, a feeling of constant threat. A person who has experienced digital trauma often avoids certain platforms or applications associated with the painful experience. They may sharply limit their online presence or, conversely, check notifications every few minutes for fear of missing a new attack. For self-diagnosis, it is useful to ask oneself several questions. Has my attitude towards digital space changed after the incident? Do I feel fear when opening certain applications? Does my online experience affect my self-esteem and relationships with loved ones? It is important to assess the depth of the trauma. Temporary distress requires one set of approaches, while chronic digital stress requires entirely different ones. Remember that recognizing the problem is the first step towards healing from the invisible wounds of the digital world. When a virtual attack catches you off guard, the first few minutes are crucial. Like pilots in an emergency, we must follow a clear protocol of actions. Step 1. Break contact with the source of trauma. Block the aggressor, exit the application, turn off notifications. This is not cowardice, but necessary self-defense. Step 2. Stabilize your emotional state. Take several deep breaths, focusing on the sensation of air in your lungs. Place a hand on your heart and feel its beat. This brings you back to the present moment, when you are physically safe. Step 3. Documentation. Take screenshots of threats or insults before deleting them. This may be useful for contacting law enforcement or platform administration. Step 4. Share with a trusted person. Articulating a traumatic experience aloud reduces its emotional intensity. If there's no one nearby, write down what happened in a diary or an audio message. Step 5. Physical grounding. Perform a simple exercise. Name 5 objects you see, 4 things you can touch, 3 sounds you hear, 2 smells, and 1 taste. This brings your brain from threat mode to safety mode. If you are helping another person, remember the main rule. Do not downplay their experiences with phrases like, "Don't take it to heart," or "It's just the internet." Recovery from digital trauma is a journey with its own stages, ups and downs. The first stage is shock and denial. "This can't be happening to me. I shouldn't react so strongly to words online." Such thoughts often visit the victim. The brain tries to protect itself, minimizing the significance of what happened. Then comes the phase of anger, at the offenders, at the platform that failed to provide protection, at oneself for vulnerability. This anger is an important part of healing, energy that, if directed correctly, can become the driving force of recovery. The third stage is bargaining. The person replays what-if scenarios in their head. If only I hadn't posted that photo. If only I had checked that website. Bargaining is followed by depression, a period when the full realization of loss comes, of security, trust, sometimes money or reputation. And finally, acceptance, when the traumatic experience is integrated into the overall picture of life. It is important to understand these stages are not linear. A person can return to previous stages, experience several simultaneously. Key recovery mechanisms include re-evaluating the situation, cognitive restructuring, gradually regaining control over one's digital life, exposure, restoring violated boundaries. Psychologists note, the pace of recovery is unique for everyone. For some, weeks are enough. Others need months. Healing is not a return to the previous state, but the creation of a new, more resilient version of oneself in the digital world. In the world of digital threats, no one can survive alone. Our brains are evolutionarily wired for social connections as a defense mechanism, which is why isolation after virtual trauma only exacerbates suffering. Studies show people who received support from loved ones after cyberbullying recovered twice as fast as those who experienced trauma alone. Support acts as an emotional buffer, softening the blow of digital aggression. But how do you ask for help when shame and self-blame make you withdraw? Start small. Share your feelings with one trusted person, without necessarily recounting all the details of what happened. The phrase, "I'm having a hard time right now, I've encountered an unpleasant situation online," can open the door to a healing dialogue. When creating a support circle, remember the balance. Online communities of victims provide understanding and acceptance, but offline contacts bring back the feeling of reality and the safety of the physical world. Specialists recommend the 3 circles rule. An inner circle of 2 to 3 closest people, a middle circle of 6 to 8 friends, and an outer circle of online support communities. It's important to remember, support is not only about receiving, but also about giving. By helping others who have experienced digital trauma, you activate reward centers in your brain, accelerating your own recovery and transforming a painful experience into a source of strength. The modern world offers not only new forms of trauma, but also innovative methods of healing. Digital therapy is not just a fashionable phrase, but a whole arsenal of effective tools for working with psychological wounds sustained in virtual space. Teletherapy erases geographical barriers, allowing one to receive specialist help without leaving home. An especially valuable advantage for those who, after digital trauma, experience fear of the outside world. Sessions are conducted via secure video platforms, creating an atmosphere of safety and confidentiality. VR therapy opens new horizons in treating digital traumas, immersing the patient in a controlled virtual environment where fears can be gradually overcome and a sense of control restored. Imagine, a person who has suffered from cyberbullying gradually learns to cope with virtual social situations, transferring the acquired skills to real life. Digital detox is a method that paradoxically uses the rejection of technology to treat traumas inflicted by these very technologies. Temporary restriction of access to devices helps the brain reset, reduce cortisol levels, and restore natural rhythms. Cognitive behavioral therapy, adapted for the online format, teaches how to recognize and transform negative thought patterns that arose after digital trauma. Applications with gamification elements turn therapeutic exercises into an engaging process, increasing motivation for recovery. Neurobiological studies confirm regular mindfulness practice through specialized applications reduces the activity of the amygdala, the brain's fear center, helping to cope with digital anxiety. It is important to remember, there is no universal method for treating digital traumas. Effective therapy usually combines several approaches, adapted to the individual needs of each person. When the digital storm subsides, we are left alone with its aftermath. In such moments, it is critically important to have self-help tools at hand. Simple but effective techniques that restore control over one's emotional state. Breathing exercises are the first line of defense against digital anxiety. The 4-7-8 technique. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 7, exhale for 8, activates the parasympathetic nervous system, reducing stress hormone levels in a matter of minutes. The practice of mindful meditation, even for 5 minutes, helps create distance between oneself and traumatic thoughts. Start by simply observing your breath, gradually expanding your focus to bodily sensations and the surrounding space. Keeping an emotion journal becomes a powerful healing tool, transforming chaotic experiences into a structured narrative. Record not only events, but also associated feelings, thoughts, and bodily reactions. Over time, you will notice recurring patterns and triggers which will allow you to transform them. Digital hygiene is not just a fashionable phrase, but a necessary practice of self-protection. Regularly review your online contacts, privacy settings, and time spent in various applications. Set clear boundaries for digital consumption, specific hours without gadgets, areas of the home free from electronics. Create a ritual for transitioning between online and offline worlds. A simple action, such as 3 deep breaths before entering and after exiting social networks. The creation of a digital fortress begins with the realization of a simple truth. Absolute protection does not exist, but we can significantly reduce risks. The first stone in the foundation of security is intelligent privacy settings. Dedicate an hour to reviewing your accounts. Who sees your posts? What applications have access to your data? Disable geolocation for applications that don't need it to function. Use two-factor authentication. It's like an extra lock on the door of your digital home. The second element of protection is digital vigilance. Before opening a link, ask yourself, did I expect this message? Does the sender's address look suspicious? Do not succumb to provocations and urgent requests. Fraudsters often create a sense of urgency to make you act impulsively. The third level of protection is information hygiene. Regularly check what information about you can be found in the public domain. Remove metadata from photos before publishing. It can contain your home's coordinates. Use different passwords for different services and change them every 6 months. The fourth barrier is healthy digital habits. Establish clear boundaries for online presence, time without gadgets, areas of the home free from electronics. Learn to recognize the first signs of digital fatigue and take breaks in time. Remember, your attention is a valuable resource. Do not let mindless scrolling steal it. And finally, create an action protocol in case of a digital attack. Write down the contacts of customer support services for the platforms you use. Save the numbers of trusted cybersecurity specialists. Prepare templates for statements to block aggressors and protect your data. Regularly back up important information. This will save you from blackmail in case of a hack. Developing digital resilience is not just a trendy term, but a vital necessity in an era where virtual space has become an extension of our reality. Just as we learn to cope with physical and emotional challenges in everyday life, we need to develop psychological immunity to online aggression. This skill is especially important for the younger generation, for whom the boundaries between the digital and real worlds are practically blurred. Digital resilience begins with forming a healthy self-perception that is not dependent on online evaluations and reactions. A key point is the separation of one's true identity and digital image. When a person understands that their value is not determined by the number of likes or negative comments, they become less vulnerable to manipulation and bullying. An important component of emotional immunity is the development of critical thinking. Learn to ask questions. Who benefits from this information? What emotions is it trying to evoke? Why did this content appear in my feed right now? This approach allows for the creation of an emotional distance between oneself and potentially traumatizing content. Practicing mindfulness in the digital space is another pillar of resilience. Pay attention to your emotional state before, during, and after using social media. If certain platforms or people regularly cause negative emotions, this is a signal to reevaluate your digital environment. Parents can help children develop digital resilience through open conversations about online risks, joint exploration of how algorithms and advertising work. It is important not to intimidate, but to inform, providing tools for independent navigation in the digital world. The path to recovery after virtual trauma resembles a spiral. We move forward, sometimes returning to previous points, but each time with new understanding and strength. The story of each survivor is unique, but one thing unites them: the possibility of complete rebirth. Research shows that people who overcome digital trauma often gain a special psychological resilience unavailable to those who have never faced such a trial. This is the phenomenon of post-traumatic growth, when a painful experience becomes a catalyst for profound, positive changes. Former victims of cyberbullying often become the most effective defenders of others, turning their scars into a source of wisdom and compassion. They possess a unique superpower: to see pain behind digital masks and find words that truly heal. Many create support communities, develop educational programs, become consultants or human rights advocates. Their story is living proof that even the deepest virtual wound can become the beginning of a new, more conscious life. Remember, recovery is not a return to a previous state, but the creation of a new version of yourself, enriched by the experience of overcoming. Digital scars, like kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing pottery with gold, make us not broken, but unique. And someday, you will look back and see that the pain you endured has become the source of your greatest strength.